Just moments ago, Zhang Yi's invincible attack caused a massive explosion. But when the smoke cleared, Yuan Konye still stood in midair, though this time he wore a look of exhaustion on his face. Although he possessed hundreds of superpowers, the energy of his own abilities was not infinite. He knew he couldn't let this drag on any longer. On the other hand, the Invincible One's state had deteriorated sharply after that last blow. His body was failing, especially his face, which was aging at a visible rate. The next moment, his body deflated like a punctured balloon, unable to support his weight in the air. Sword-like Bai Li Chongqing swiftly caught him. Looking at the weary Invincible One, he felt both pity and helplessness. In contrast, the Loyal One seemed somewhat dramatic, as he was stuffing his mouth with food that could restore abilities. Those who didn't know might think he was starving. However, he was actually trying to outlast Xuankong Yi in a battle of attrition. Unfortunately, the situation had reached a critical point. Aside from the Loyal One, the others had all sustained varying degrees of injuries. Under these conditions, they couldn't even think about comparing strengths. Self-preservation was becoming an issue. At this moment, Bai Li Chongqing approached Zhang Yi and spoke in a barely audible voice. The only ones who can fight now are us two. Can we still win? Before Zhang Yi could answer, Yuan Konye spoke from above. You ants, how long do you intend to hold on? The longer you delay, the more pain you will endure. Why not let me kill you quietly? Then you will be free. Zhang Yi sighed deeply after hearing this. He turned to the others and said, well, it seems your limits stop here. Though it's a bit weaker than I expected, it's still enough. Zhang Yi's words were rather bold, catching many off guard. They acknowledged that Zhang Yi had a significant restraining power over Yuan Konye. But in their minds, Zhang Yi's strength lay in defense rather than attack, so they couldn't understand why he was changing his attitude at this moment. However, the old six had no intention of explaining to them. He waved his hand towards the crowd behind him. You can leave now. I will take over this battlefield. Bai Li Chongqing looked at Zhang Yi in disbelief, as he was increasingly unable to understand this man before him. Yet, he still asked his question. Zhang Yi, you're not joking with us, are you? Zhang Yi replied calmly. Do you think I have the leisure to joke? Or do you have any way to deal with him? Before Bai Li Chongqing could respond, Xiao Honglian and Wei Dingai rushed off into the distance without hesitation. At the same time, they turned to Zhang Yi, saying, we'll leave it to you. You must survive. Seeing this, Yi Muxin weighed his options and decided to flee as well. However, unlike the other two, he compressed all his abilities into his hand before leaving, channeling all of it to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi didn't refuse Yi Muxin's gesture. After all, no one would want to miss the chance to become stronger. Just as everyone was retreating, Bai Li Chongqing took the opposite action. He ordered all members to retreat to safety and, if things went awry, to escape back to Blizzard City. He would stay behind to fight alongside Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi did not stop him. Since Bai Li Chongqing was willing, let him fight together. As for Yuan Konye, he didn't stop the others from leaving, because as long as he wished, no one in Tianhai City could escape. So what he wanted to know most was what Zhang Yi intended to do next. At that moment, Bai Li Chongqing suddenly threw a pistol to Zhang Yi from his pocket. Zhang Yi recognized it at once. It was a sidearm used in military drills. While he was puzzled, Bai Li Chongqing added, there are over 20 origin bullets left. Zhang Yi smiled faintly and accepted it without hesitation, putting it into a space storage. He had been looking for specialized bullets to deal with ability users for a long time. If he could bring it back for Lu Curran to study, perhaps he could also create weapons against these ability users. After everything was settled, Zhang Yi looked up at Yuan Konye. We should settle this between us. Am I right? The little witch, Yuan Konye, smirked. Who gave you the confidence? Can't you feel the gap between us? Or have you never gone all out? But it didn't matter. After warming up, I've started to adapt to my power. So you don't need to worry. I will gradually drain your strength until I take all your abilities. Then, Yuan Konye released a wave of energy, hundreds of times stronger than before, revealing Epsilon's true power to everyone for the first time. Just a few minutes ago, Yuan Konye unleashed a terrifying wave of power. At that moment, Bai Li Chongqing's agility reached an unprecedented height as he tried to dodge Yuan Konye's attacks, pushing his speed to the limit. For a brief moment, Yuan Konye thought he might be seeing things. But as a genuine Epsilon, he quickly locked onto his target after a moment of focus. Then, with a slight spread of his fingers, a massive telekinetic force locked Bai Li Chongqing in place, blocking all his escape routes. The next second, Bai Li Chongqing felt as if he had been hit by a massive boulder, the immense force launching him away. At this moment, Zhang Yi had no intention of helping Bai Li Chongqing. In fact, he had teleported behind Yuan Konye the instant Yuan Konye raised his hand. Since his spatial abilities were unaffected by other forces, As long as Zhang Yi controlled the direction of the gate, he could even achieve a state of weightlessness. When Yuan Kongye noticed Zhang Yi floating in midair like him, he unleashed a strong gust of wind towards Zhang Yi's position. However, Zhang Yi surprisingly did not attempt to dodge this attack. He waited until the hurricane was almost upon him before raising his right hand. In an instant, all the attacks fell into the dimensional gate. The next moment, a second dimensional gate suddenly appeared behind Yuan Kongye, releasing the hurricane that Zhang Yi had just absorbed back into the battlefield. Seeing this, Yuan Kongye's expression changed, and under his command, the previous attack dissipated in an instant. What a clever move with the dimensional gate. Let's see how you respond to the next attack. In the next second, countless wind blades formed around Zhang Yi. Yuan Kongye executed a 360-degree assault, while Zhang Yi's dimensional gate could not cover the entire area. Therefore, facing this onslaught, Yuan Kongye felt confident. However, when the smoke cleared, Zhang Yi appeared unharmed in another location. His expression as calm as ever. This scene left Xiao Hongliang and others in a cold sweat. They realized with shock that Zhang Yi had never shown them his true strength. Yuan Kongye was equally surprised, but he soon smirked disdainfully. Zhang Yi, do you only know how to run? I want to see how long you can maintain this state. In response, Zhang Yi made a provocative gesture towards Yuan Kongye. If you have the ability, come and kill me. I'm not afraid of verbal attacks, but your actions have haunted me. Lately, whenever I close my eyes, I see the image of you killing thousands. Upon hearing this, Yuan Kongye went into a frenzy. He held nothing back in his attacks against Zhang Yi. Any talk of abilities had been thrown out the window. His only thought was to tear Zhang Yi into pieces. But with his space-traveling abilities, Zhang Yi was exceptionally skilled at self-preservation. He easily dodged every attack from Yuan Kongye, and some physical attacks even bounced back at him. Therefore, with no other options, Yuan Kongye had to expand his attack range, hoping to trap Zhang Yi within his domain. He realized that Zhang Yi's time-space travel seemed to have distance limitations. However, what happened next infuriated Yuan Kongye even more. Zhang Yi, while facing such high-intensity attacks for an extended period, unexpectedly comprehended a new ability, dimensional compression. Now, Zhang Yi could compress the two gates down to the size of a shield. Manipulating them with his hands, while the area seemed to shrink, his defenses increased, and his attacks became more flexible and convenient. Thus, their battle fell into a stalemate, although Zhang Yi was constantly in a passive state of being attacked. Given the chance, he would unleash a powerful counterattack against Yuan Kongye. In response to this, Yuan Kongye could only use his abilities to negate Zhang Yi's attacks. As a result, the battlefield was filled with numerous spatial rifts. Anything within this range would be devoured entirely. At this point, Baili Chongqing had long given up participating in the battle. He believed that such a level of conflict was beyond his reach. Forcing himself into it would only be a burden. Because of this, everyone's perception of Zhang Yi elevated to a new height. This kid is no ordinary person. Thankfully, we didn't continue to fight him back then, otherwise, we would have been dead by now. However, Meng Xiyu now appeared grave. He felt that this stalemate could not continue, as the energy reserves of abilities varied with levels. Especially after reaching Epsilon, they couldn't imagine how much energy Yuan Kongye could store. So when Yuan Kongye tired of this cat and mouse game, he could easily drop Zhang Yi and turn his focus on attacking them. After all, Zhang Yi was the only one who posed a threat to him. When these words were spoken, everyone present felt a chill run down their spines. But right now, they had no choice but to trust Zhang Yi, as they clearly understood they could not escape from an Epsilon's grasp. In contrast, on the battlefield, Yuan Kongye had been fighting Zhang Yi for almost an hour. His once calm demeanor was starting to show signs of agitation. Despite having used dozens of methods against Zhang Yi, he found that Zhang Yi's dimensional compression and spatial travel were simply too formidable. He couldn't land a hit or capture him at all. Yuan Kongye wanted to use a large-scale attack to break through Zhang Yi's spatial teleportation. Would he succeed? Zhang Yi's spatial abilities from the bug class left Yuan Kongye helpless. He gritted his teeth, wishing his friend A Xian was there. Surely, A Xian would have figured out a way to deal with Zhang Yi. Suddenly, Yuan Kongye had a flash of inspiration. If he could take down Zhang Yi's teammates, he could use them to threaten Zhang Yi into revealing a weakness. However, Yuan Kongye soon realized that Uncle Lu and the others had long vanished. This surprised him greatly. He had just seen them moments ago, and now they were nowhere to be found. Zhang Yi noticed Yuan Kongye's intentions and smirked mockingly. So you want to find my teammates to threaten me? Too late for that. Upon hearing this, Yuan Kongye's anger skyrocketed. Zhang Yi was truly a sneaky and despicable guy. But if he chose to attack Xiao Honglian and the others, He would leave his back vulnerable to Zhang Yi. He couldn't give Zhang Yi the chance to launch a surprise attack. He had to think of a solution that worked both ways. Yuan Kongye looked at Zhang Yi, who was now like a hard tortoise. Not only did he need to break through Zhang Yi's shell, but he also had to guard against the snake lurking inside that could strike. Was there really no way out? Yuan Kongye reminded himself that in moments like this, he needed to stay calm and not let Zhang Yi control him. Zhang Yi must have a weakness, he just hadn't discovered it yet. Suddenly, an idea struck Yuan Kongye, and he was surrounded by crimson flames. If he could restrict Zhang Yi's teleportation ability and then break through his defenses, everything would fall into place. In an instant, the towering flames surged towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi, clad in high-temperature combat gear, felt no harm from the flames. He directly used the dimensional team in his hand to fend off all the fire attacks. However, in the next moment, all the flames suddenly plunged into the ground. Zhang Yi furrowed his brows, wondering what Yuan Kongye was planning. Multiple fire dragons drilled into the ground, causing the ice and snow beneath to evaporate, sending clouds of white smoke rising. The melted ice and snow formed a thick mist that obscured Zhang Yi's vision. Was he planning a sneak attack? Zhang Yi immediately became alert. He could hear the sound of rushing water filling his ears as droplets rapidly evaporated, quickly saturating the surrounding space. Zhang Yi sensed something was off. Even if he used spatial teleportation now, he couldn't escape the coverage of these water droplets. The droplets suspended in the air slowly converged into a long river in the sky. Zhang Yi felt a surge of anxiety. His movement was restricted to 300 meters. While this heavenly river spanned a full kilometer, he looked up at Yuan Kongye's water. Was he trying to use this method to cut off Zhang Yi's mobility? Yuan Kongye exhaled a white mist toward Zhang Yi. In less than a second, the heavenly river began to freeze. A smug smile appeared on Yuan Kongye's face. No matter how good you are at dodging, with such a wide attack range, I want to see how you escape.